All right. All right. Welcome, everybody. Thanks again for joining us on another Gut Health 15. If you are new to this party, this is a time where we get together every week, generally on a Monday, generally the same time, about 8 or 8:30. We've changed it now since it starts getting dark at about 3:30 or 4 o'clock here in North Dakota. We did change it to 8 p.m. so it doesn't seem quite so late. But we get together and we get somebody to come on as a guest and tell their what we call their pleximony. And we know that gut health is so important in everybody's health, and it is a pillar of our health. We know that for a fact, as well as a number of other things. And the beauty of it is these other things are also things that Plexus can help with, other than just the gut health. So we are going to hear tonight from Bunny, who is way out in Kentucky. She has been so gracious to be our guest this evening in her busy life because she still hasn't decorated for Christmas. So she probably has other things she could be doing, but she has been gracious enough to share with us tonight. So, Bunny, I'm going to turn it over to you. And if you could give us your health testimony first, that would be great.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. And first, I want to thank you for having me, and it's quite an honor. And thank you for all the work that helps all of us, even though we're teams. All your courage and boldness and your videos is a great blessing, and I want to thank you for that.
I'm so glad you
I
used
wanted you what I want to tell you, first of all, that I am 77 years old. I started Plexus when I was, and I really thought that it was going to be time for something new. I thought it might be a cemetery plot, but my daughter rescued me with Plexus. So I'll tell you my story. I'm a Ruby ambassador at the age of 77. I'm married to my husband, Larry, who is a retired pastor, and we have 3 adult children, their spouses. We have 7 grandchildren and 2 great grandchildren. Um, one of the benefits from being a senior citizen is a perspective in life where you can look back and trace things from the beginning that maybe at a younger age you wouldn't recognize because they're in process. So when I look back over my health problems, I've learned since I've been in Plexus that gut health affects everything. And so I look back and I see things that were going on that at the time I totally missed. In my earlier years, I think it started with some dental problems, abscesses. I had then hormone problems for a few years. Then I was diagnosed with endometriosis. And then there was a few years that I had diarrhea problems. And all of these were fixed with procedures and prescriptions, I thought. But as time went by, I kept having problems, and it culminated with some serious sinus problems that I had, sinus infections. I was first diagnosed with chronic sinus disease. I didn't even know there was such a thing. I just knew I felt terrible all the time. And it was antibiotics, it was surgery, it was more antibiotics. And I heard about some research that had been done, early research that had been done by Mayo Clinic, that said if antibiotics don't clear up your sinus infection, you may have fungal sinusitis, not bacterial. And I thought that sounded like me. And so I took that report to some of my doctors where I was looking for help, and they were not interested in that research at all. One doctor said it's not possible that you could have a candida overgrowth unless maybe you had AIDS or late stage cancer, then you might have it. But to have it as a healthy person able to walk around and everything, no, not possible. Another doctor told me that probably I should just find another doctor. All the doctors that I saw asked me 2 questions. Do you have vaginal yeast infection? No. Do you have thrush in your mouth? No. Then you don't have a fungus overgrowth or a yeast overgrowth. But I did, and my problems kept getting worse. And about that time, I developed this fire going on in my chest. And I didn't know what that was, but I went to a doctor and he scoped me 3 times in over a span of 3 years. And every time he biopsied an area of inflammation in my esophagus, and he told my husband he thought it might be Barrett's disease or maybe esophageal cancer, even or develop into that. So it wasn't, thank the Lord, it was not. But I took lots of PPIs, proton pump inhibitors, and I had adverse reactions to all of them. Some of them minor, some of them not so minor. But that was going on. And then I had more sinus surgery where they found polyps in my sphenoid sinuses that were right behind my eyeballs against my brain, that masses of polyps. And the doctor said it was undoubtedly caused by an allergic reaction to something. And so he said, no more PPIs, because I told him that I was having those problems with PPIs. So my doctor put me on Zantac, and that worked pretty good for about 3 years. And then all of a sudden, something started going on in my body where I became very short of breath. And I couldn't talk like I'm talking now, because I would have to stop and have a little gasp. And I became weak. Over a period of about 5 months, I had terrible brain fog. And even toward the end of that period, I developed a mild case of shingles. And so I was sick. I had a cardiac evaluation. It wasn't my heart. I had a pulmonary evaluation. It wasn't my lungs. Nope. So I looked up one night on my computer, adverse reactions to Zantac. And the very first one was shortness of breath. So I'd been taking it for 5 months after my symptoms started, trying to find out what was wrong with me. And every day I took it, it was harder on my body. It was like I was taking something that was poisoning me. And so I stopped immediately. And at that point, my daughter Elissa said, Mom, I wish you would try Plexus. She had heard of it near where she lived. Somebody had told her about it. And I just thought she didn't understand how sick I was. I said, I'm seriously not well. And she said, I know, I understand that. Well, I was so skeptical that I only agreed to buy a 2-week sample pack. And then I took half of those per day, a half a dose of Slim a day, but for 28 days. And she said, do you feel any better? And I said, well, I think maybe I do, but it could be just because I stopped the Zantac and I would have gotten better anyway. She said, why don't you try 1 month of Triplex? So I did. And I said, but don't even ask me to sell it. I am not a salesperson. I'm just doing this for you. But after a month, I did feel better. And so I ordered another month. And at 3 months, I passed by the bathroom mirror and I stopped and backed up and looked again. I said, what happened to my belly? My belly, my big old bloated belly had flattened down. And that's when I realized that there was something healing in my body. And so I stayed on Triplex and I got better. And after 6 months, one night I thought they had me on Pepcid by then because I couldn't take Zantac anymore and I couldn't take PPIs. And I had this fire in my chest. And so after 6 months, I thought, I wonder what would happen if I didn't take my Pepcid tonight. And so I left it off. I thought if I have to, I'll get up in the middle of the night and take it. But the fire was out and I had no more acid reflux, no more GERD. So I could not keep from sharing this good news because a lot of people have been praying for me. A lot of people were concerned about me. My husband had to stand beside me at the stove and help me cook a meal. I mean, I was really seriously ill. And so I started telling people this stuff is real. This stuff is good. It has made such a difference in my health. And a little business was born because they wanted to try it. I wasn't trying to sell it. I was just trying to share some good news. And they said, well, we need some help too. And so people started ordering from me. And that was 7 years ago. And I have received a paycheck from Plexus every single month for 7 years that pays for my products, and it pays for my husband's products. And that's a whole other story. He has a Plexus story too. But it keeps us at the age of 77, it keeps us in better health than most of our peers, and doing our very best to age backwards. But I mean, we know that we're 77 years old, but it is such a life-changing thing for senior citizens. I know it's great at every age, and I recommend people start when they're young and not have to go through what I went through. But it's such a life-changing thing to have Plexus. Now, in conclusion, these gut health products were exactly what I needed to be healthy. I had increasing yeast overgrowth in my body over a period of years that eventually culminated with a chronic sinus condition that was debilitating and requiring surgery and things like that. And I believe that the GERD that I had, the inflammation in my esophagus, I believe at this point that it was a biofilm, a candida biofilm, a colony with a hard protective shell over it that was resistant to anything that would try to kill it. And so Plexus was able, without me even knowing it, here I was still taking my Pepcid every night. Plexus was able to heal that. That's my conclusion. I think I had systemic candida overgrowth that was causing disease and the disease process in my body. And by being introduced to Plexus and trying the products, our health has turned around completely. And that's my story.
Funny, that is amazing. And what a blessing Alyssa was to share with you, right? I mean,
Yes.
trusted her, and I'm sure you just did it to because my mom did the same thing. She's like, I'm just doing this to help you.
Yes.
I don't really think this is going to do anything, but Kelly, I love you and I'll support you if this is what you want to do. And she actually quit the first time and then came back to me and asked if she could do it again. So God bless you, Alyssa, for speaking up, because it is sometimes hard, especially I think those that are close, because we feel so much more vulnerable.
Yes.
But I agree with you 100%. That candida overgrowth thing, it's a thing.
Yes, it is.
It's a definite thing. And I'll speak from my pharmacy background now too, but we don't see a lot of patients coming in with this candida, like with the diagnosis of having that overgrowth systemically. They come in and they're like, well, yeah, I'm getting this diflucan and I have to take it for, however many months, twice a week or every day or however they prescribe it. And they'll take it for months because they've got a toenail and fungus or, some part of their body. But the thing of it is, generally, it's everywhere. Once you're having those types of symptoms, it's everywhere.
Yes.
And honestly, that's amazing that you could kick it in that short of a time, I think. Yeah.
It was an answer to prayer.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah. For sure. So I have to ask you another question because you know me, I ask a lot of questions. But did your diet change at all after you started the products? Did you notice that you were eating healthier?
Well, someone had given me a book several years before. It was after my first sinus surgery. and I got better for a short time. And then it started all over again, and it didn't last. And my aunt had seen a guy on television advertising probiotics, and she ordered a book called The Fungus Link, and she sent it to me. And I read it, and I thought, wow, this sounds just like me. And so it was a very strict diet. I mean, you basically could eat lemons and cucumbers and yogurt. I mean, it was a very strict, and I ate like that for years. So after I started with Plexus, I healed up enough that I could have a piece of cake without getting sick.
Wow.
So now I have to really practice self-discipline, because before, it wasn't too hard. I knew if I ate it, I was going to be sick.
Yeah.
So now I can have some pizza sometimes and not get sick.
Wow.
And I could have, yes, I can eat a healthier diet.
Yeah.
But I can eat more of a normal diet because
not so restrictive.
Right. Because it was getting to the root of the problem.
Yeah. I had a friend that she was diagnosed with a candida overgrowth, not in our health system here, but she'd been traveling out of state because she'd been struggling so much too. But when I finally visited with her about Plexus, she had lost so much weight. I thought maybe she had cancer. It was that bad. But she said, Kelly, I can't eat anything anymore. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but I can eat like 6 foods. It was ridiculous, because kind of like you, she knew what would set her off. And it's not that way anymore. She's really thriving. So yeah, it's incredible. And it is so encouraging to my heart to hear from the senior population, because sometimes I think they get missed in all this. And I'm a senior now too, so I can say that. I feel sometimes we get missed in all this. It's not all about weight loss. Yes, that's a piece of it, just like you said, but that is not the primary motivator. It's to get healthy again.
Yes.
And to live life to the fullest, and to have that quality of life. Okay, one more question, because you did open the gate to the business part of it. So that's kind of my story too. Kelly Carlstead is my sponsor, and I can remember her asking me numerous times, when are you going to start sharing these products? And I'm like, yeah, that's never happening. It's never happening. Never happening. And I can remember sitting down with my husband one night at dinner, and once again, I'm exasperated because Kelly's asked me once again when I'm going to start sharing these products. And Scott said, well, what are you kind of so like about? And I told him, and I said, well, Kelly asked me again, and I shot her down again. And he's like, well, Kelly, why did you go into pharmacy school? And I said, well, to help people. And he says, well, why would you share Plexus with people? And I said, to help people, because I felt it was such a conflict of interest, to make my business. And he said, well, what is the problem? And I just thought, wow, yeah, I never thought about that. If I go again back to the root of it, that is my motivation. And that is your motivation, because the products have helped you.
Yes.
So I feel you there. So with that being said, tell me your number one success story helping somebody. Because obviously you're probably Alyssa's biggest success story in all this, right? But tell me what your biggest success story, because I know that that's where you find the joy in all of this. Getting a paycheck, absolutely, but being able to help somebody thrive and get healthier.
Well, if I thought about it, I could probably think of a lot of them. But about maybe 2 years ago, a man, he's not a young man anymore, but when my kids were little, he was the youth and music minister at our church. And so now he's a senior citizen too, but he called me and he said, I got a bad case of COVID. He almost died. He was hospitalized. And he said, when I went into the hospital, I was not diabetic. And when I came out of the hospital, I was diabetic. And he said, we can't control my diabetes. And he said, do you think you have something that might help me? And so I started him on Triplex. And a week later, he sent me a screenshot of his his little, I can't think of the word, his little machine that reads his blood sugar.
Yep.
And it was 89.
Wow.
And I said, well, that's not really typical because it usually takes longer than that.
Yeah.
But I'm thrilled
Yeah.
that you're getting. And his doctor started dropping diabetic medications, and so he's never missed a month ordering triplex.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I would have to say June Rice, uh,
Yep.
Kathy's mother. She was I call her my spiritual mother. We had a close relationship from high school when she was my teacher, and she was in a long-term care facility, and she called me. She was 93 years old, and she said, I want to order some of that Slim you keep talking about. And I said, well, what exactly do you think it's going to do for you, because you're 93 years old? She said, I don't know, but I want to find out. So I called Kathy, who was not a Plexus user at that time, and I said, I don't want you to think I'm coercing your mother. She wants, and Kathy said, give her what she wants. And so she started on Slim, only Slim, for about a year. And so when Kathy took her to the doctor the next year for her checkup, she had lost 20 pounds. And Kathy made him put her back on the scales and weigh her again. She couldn't believe that was right. And so that night, Kathy called me and she said, I want some of this stuff too. So Kathy's lost 55 pounds. But June, the doctor in her late 90s, and she just passed this week. Right. In her late 90s, the doctors took her off of all her diabetic medications because her blood sugar improved so much. And not only that, but 10 other labs moved to normal that had been abnormal. And so that's definitely one of my biggest success stories. So there's two.
that is incredible. It just goes to show our bodies are wonderfully made, right?
Yes.
If we give it what it needs.
Right.
Yeah, it can function.
We need Plexus. Oh, that's sweet, Jasmine. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all know that Kathy was on the call, if she's still on the call. Yes, there she is. Hey, Kathy. Kathy's mom passed away just a couple of days ago earlier. Yeah, so it's
at
really
the age of 99.
Isn't that something? It's been fun to watch her on Facebook because the stories and with her hats. I'm gonna miss these hats. I really am. Oh gosh. So we're very sorry for your loss, Kathy. Okay, I'm going to open this up for questions. It's a smaller group here, so if anyone has any questions, just go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you.
What a beautiful story. Thank you so much for sharing with us tonight. I mean, I just had tears rolling down my face because if we don't open our mouths and share, we are blocking a blessing for somebody else to get better. And I never get tired of these stories, Bunny. Thank you so much for being willing to jump on our team call and do this for us, because I imagine this call is going to be shared many, many times over. Mm-hmm. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And to you, Kathy, thinking about you, and I love your hat.
Anybody else have any questions? I'll shoot one in here. Are you currently just using Triplex, or have you added other things over the years?
I've added lots of things. Yeah. I take almost all of the general nutrition products along with Triplex.
Yep. Again, I was going to be that person. When I tried the Triplex, I didn't think it would work because I was really skeptical too. But I had said to my husband, I'm never going to be that person that takes all of the things. And now between the both of us, because he's on it now too, we take all the things, and we're loud and proud about it too, because I just think too, we're seniors now too, and we're not on any medications. And that's kind of a testament. I was just at the doctor last week, the week before, and she asked me twice, the nurse that was checking me in, you're not on any medications? Nothing. Nope, just my supplements, just my Plexus. You're not on any medication. Okay, girlfriend, I'm a pharmacist. I know what the word medication means, and no, I'm not on any. Seriously, quit asking me the same question. But apparently that's not too typical, so I would like to keep it that way. Oh gosh.
And I would like to introduce my daughter, who is also on today.
Hi, Jen.
Got to see Bunny's. So here we have Bunny and Alyssa, mother-daughter, and me and Jennifer, our mother-daughter.
Oh, neat. Welcome. Welcome, Jennifer.
And I have to tell you, Alyssa's name is Alyssa June.
Oh,
she's named for Kathy's mother.
Oh, how neat is that? That is fantastic. I don't see any more questions in the chat. Anybody have anything else? We'll have to get Bunny back on again and give her husband's testimony. He's a great preacher. I've caught some of those sermons years ago too.
Okay.
Anyone? Going once, going twice? All right, Bunny, I'm going to thank you again so very much for getting on our call tonight. It has just been a treat to be able to visit with you and to see some of our other Plexus family here that I actually know, which is kind of fun too. So anyway, we will call it a night. I will get this call posted on the YouTube channel. So if you want to share it with others, please do. These stories are so powerful. In fact, a friend of mine from Canada also, who is an ambassador, she defined her job as a story collector. And I think there's really something to be said about that. If you can catalog these stories in your mind, and because that's what speaks to people, is people's stories. These are real life stories from real people. And it's very powerful. So thank you again for joining us, everybody, and have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks.
Merry Christmas.